If you are consuming content for Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, then you're constantly hearing me or other content creators talk about beginning rosters, early game, mid game, late game, end game rosters. We talk about it in Grand Arena. We talk about it when we do roster reviews every day in videos. It is a language that is constantly out there. But where does your roster fall in that continuum? And what does it mean for your farming goals? How should this be impacting you with how you play the game and how you think about what is ahead of you in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes? That is what we're going to talk about today. Well, greetings and hello there, everybody. It's me, your beloved Star Wars Dad, Nooch to Good. And over here is exactly what I was just talking about. The list of the types of players, the place where you are in the game, and if understanding where you are in the game can help you to achieve more and push forward into other aspects of the game. The beginners, the early gamers, the mid gamers, the late gamers, and the end gamers. Where do you fall in this spectrum, and what does that mean for your roster? We're going to have a little bit of fun with this today. We're going to take a journey throughout this game that we love, Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, and we're going to take that journey through my many accounts that are out there. And we're going to start off with the beginner account here. We're going to look at Nooch Vader in its beginning stages, and then we'll look at another account, Nooch Jr., that I still would consider a beginner account, even though it's already maybe at level 85. So here is that Nooch Vader account at 6 weeks, and my hand is huge. Look at the size of my hand right here. That's the secret cap. I'm always angry with my giant hands. Anyway, this was at week 6. You can see that we were at level 76. You can see Iden Versio level 76, Magma Trooper level 76, Stormtrooper down there at level 76. So the beginner roster, if you are a beginner, it basically means you have not hit level 85 yet. Now that has changed dramatically in the last 4 months in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. It used to be like a 4-month journey. It used to take you a long time. I averaged about 110 days on several free-to-play accounts to go from level 0 up to level 85. Well, now that's all changed, and it's about a 3.5 to 4 week process with the quest that they put into the game to advance you to level 85 quicker, and that's a good thing. It's a very good thing for the game, and we'll be talking about that later in this week with my midweek free-to-play update and how good it is, really. But the beginner is not at level 85 yet. So what is the beginner focused on? A few things. The main thing you got to be focused on. You have to have a team that can get through Galactic War. You got to start thinking about your level 78. You know, it's not level 78 anymore because they've advanced it so far. But you got to start thinking about getting a dark side fleet ready so that you can start getting Zetas, 6 Zeta mats every week in the ship ability material challenge that comes out 3 times a week. You gotta start thinking about that. And you gotta start putting together some teams that are gonna do well for you in Grand Arena. So it's probably gonna be the same teams that are getting you through Galactic War. In my case, you can see up here, I was building an Iden Versio team, Magma Troopers up there, Stormtrooper over there, Snow Trooper right here. I'm building an Iden Versio Trooper team, and those Trooper teams are really important for early gamers as well, or beginners. We're not early gamers yet. Beginners, it's important to get those together. We're starting to think about how to put the roster together to play Grand Arena, because as soon as we get to level 85, it opens up Grand Arena. It opens up Conquest for us. We can start simming our Galactic War every day. A lot of things open up to you at level 85. You're putting together a fleet that can try to compete in Fleet Arena. And that's where you are as a beginner in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. You're probably learning the game if you're a new player. You know, some of us are starting up the alt accounts as beginner accounts, and you've got some ideas of what you want to do. A true beginner, a brand new person to the game, is coming in blind and really trying to learn the game from bottom to top. And that's why you need to go watch my beginners playlist, Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes beginners playlist. God it gives the Doden. Anyway, beginners playlist. Go watch that. Check it out. It'll help you out as a beginner. But these are the beginners. I want to look at another account of mine, though, Nooch Jr., and talk about how that account also represents beginners in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. Here we have my Nooch Jr. account. Note that we're back into the PC client because I can just pull all these ally codes because this is how these accounts exist today. Now, this account is at level 85. I promise you it is. I've got this account is actually, pardon me, boy, I just had a big steak. I had steak for dinner. That was kind of nice. Longhorn, very nice. So medium filet. What Sweet potato with brown sugar and butter. My goodness, good bread. Some spinach dip. Oh my, good stuff. Anyway, look, this account is at level 85. This account is the leader of my Nooch2 gift account that I use to gift people Lightspeed bundles and other stuff in the game. So you can see though that this account is underdeveloped. It's not ready to go. There's nothing in this account that you look at. A level 83 Kylo Ren mask with no Zetas. You don't really have a Phoenix team put together here. There's not really there's nothing really put together on this roster. Nothing is at level 85. This account is not ready to face off against anybody in Grand Arena. So if this account came to me today and you showed it to me, you're like, this is my account, what do I do? Or I just came back to the game after years of being off, what do I do? I would call you a beginner. We would start from scratch. I'd want you just to start thinking about teams to farm. We probably would retool. We'd probably get you away from that first order farming, maybe go over to some Imperial Troopers and Phoenix. We would find some different things to do with your roster. But this is also a beginner. Just as a heads up, this account, I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe this is the very first account I ever started in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes back in, I think, January 2017 or December 2016, right when it came out. And I soon after doing this for about a month, I realized, this isn't working. And I actually jumped in and started another account. And I've gone back in a few times, just got this to level 85, just so I could lead a guild and blah, 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 blah. But this is also a beginner account that needs to retool. You may be in this position too. Maybe your roster's in a place where it's not working for you. You need to retool what you're doing, rethink how everything's going. And I've got lots of top 10 lists and farming guides out there that can really help you with all of that. So take a look at the channel. Actually, I need to create a farming guide playlist. I'm gonna go make a farming guide playlist for you as soon as I get done making this video. So you can go out and look at that farming guide playlist. And yes, this is turning into somewhat of an advertisement for my playlists. Let's take a look at the early gamers. And for the early gamers, we're gonna go right back into my Nooch Vader account. We took a look at an old video, or a video back at 6 weeks of this account. Now this account is at 16 weeks or 17 weeks. Now we're fully in the early game stages. We're at 1 million galactic power. We're facing off in Carbonite. I moved up to Carbonite 3, I think, in Grand Arena. I've got 3 relic characters. I've got a full Gear 12 Iden Versio Trooper team. I've got a Qui-Gon Jinn Omicron on there. I've got several Zetas applied. You can see here the differences between that beginner account and an early game account. Early game, your priorities are really put together those Grand Arena teams. The faster you climb in Grand Arena, the more the crystals pay off for you. They really, really do, folks. I just want to tell you, the biggest way to crystals right now is doing well in Grand Arena and also in Fleet Arena. See, I'm number 8 in Fleet Arena. You want to stay at least in the top 10 in Fleet Arena. The way that I'm doing it was with Endurance, Houndstooth, Ahsoka and Anakin, my Umbaran Starfighter, my Clone Sergeant, my Plo Koon, my Galactic Republic fleet is pushing me into the top 10 and top 5 of Fleet Arena every single day. These are the concerns of the early gamer. Get good at Grand Arena. Get teams built up for that Grand Arena. Get teams built up for Fleet Arena. Whatever your guild is requiring, you may be in a guild that's requiring you to do certain farms, and that's why you were able to get into the guild. Hey, maybe I can get this account into a guild that is doing Geonosis territory battles, and they accepted the fact that I'm not farming Geos, which is what happened here. I'm not farming Geos on purpose on this account. I don't advise it. I think everybody should farm Geos, but on this account, I decided we're not doing that. We're doing some different stuff. But your guild may be requiring certain farms for territory battles or territory wars or the raid specifically. A lot of guilds want you to farm for the raid right now so they can do the Naboo raid because it's that important to a roster to really do that, and it's important to the rest of the guild. So in that early game, you're bringing these teams up. You're fighting your way through it. If you're free to play, you're trying to find ways to get your hands on some Kyratex and to get your hands on some, I can never remember what they're called. Let's go back to my roster here, and I can find them here because I can't see it in somebody else's roster. You're trying to get your hands on, that's not going to help me. To Gear 12 down here. You're trying to get your hands on some of these injector head, injector salvage, injector whatever. So you're trying to get your hands on. These are hard to get your hands on if you're free to play, especially. You got to get those assault battles done. That's another concern of the early gamer. Let's go back into that account. The early gamer is farming for assault battles, really looking for ways to get their teeth sunk into a bunch of assault battles because those assault battle rewards are so important. And here on this roster, we got the Imperial Troopers. That'll get us through the Endor Moon and Rebel Roundup. We've got our Bad Batch, which is going to get us through the Military Might Assault Battle. We got our Jedi to get us through the Ground War Assault Battle. So there's different ways to think about these assault battles, but that's a really important part of being an early gamer and even a beginner. But as you hit the early game, you've got to really put some thought into assault battles. Are you farming? Are you farming the Poncho Bros, Master Qui-Gon and Padawan Obi-Wan? I am. I've got Padawan Obi-Wan up to 5 stars, and I'm pushing forward on him to make sure he's on my roster. So these are the thoughts that you're looking for in the early game as you move forward into the mid game. When you hit the mid game, it's about 4 million. Let's get into that. And here is that mid game roster, kind of pushing into late game a little bit, but this is my Star Wars dad. This is my free to play account that I had for about 3.5 years, and I just eventually retired it. It just kind of was just at a point where I didn't feel like it was. Anyway, that's a separate story. So I retired this account. 3 Galactic Legends. We've got Darth Revan on there. We did farm the Leviathan, so that we're pushing our way into the late game here with Executor and Leviathan. But honestly, my definition for late game is going to fall into this. You've got an account, and you're at least at 4 million, right? And you pushed your way into Kyber 3 or Kyber 2. I just think that's the way to label a late game account. If you're not really a Grand Arena person, I guess what we can do instead is say that you're sitting out there with an account above 4 million, so somewhere probably around 7 to 8 million, and you've got at least 5 Galactic Legends, and you've got at least 2 of the capital ships. I think I would call that a late game account as well, even though maybe you're not pushing hard in Grand Arena. But I think generally the measurement for a late game account these days is going to be you've got a good roster with several Galactic Legends, 1 or 2 or even 3 of the primary big capital ships. That's Leviathan, Executor, Profundity. And you're sitting in Kyber 2 or 3, maybe even Kyber 4 for the late game. I just... Am I on late game or mid game? We're on mid game. So I think anywhere outside of like Kyber 3 or 4. If you're not in Kyber 3 or 4 and you got a roster like this, you're in the mid game. When you hit the mid game, 4 million. You hit the mid game at 4 million because that's when you open up Proving Grounds where you can farm all the previous Conquest characters. It's where you open up Hard Conquest where you can farm all the current Conquest characters. I feel like there's something else that opens up at 4 million and I'm not thinking of it right now, but that 4 million mark is really a hard galactic power mark for if you've hit 4 million, you are in the mid game, and you won't hit that late game until you get into Kyber and Grand Arena, probably Kyber 4 at least, with some stuff on your roster. So that's really, what are you thinking about? What are you thinking about in mid game? Well, you start to think about filling out the roster with more Galactic Legends, completing all of your fleets. Let's take a look at the fleets on here. If I look at my Empire fleet in this roster, this Empire fleet is pretty darn complete. Look at this. We got the TIE Bomber, Imperial TIE Fighter, we got Vader, we got the Scythe, we got TIE Defender, TIE Interceptor. This is a very much complete Imperial fleet, and this is the kind of fleet that you want to have put together as a mid gamer going into the late game. So what you're trying to do, and I think I'm going to have all these put together, but as you're in the mid game and you're pushing forward to the late game, you're trying to round out all these fleets. Here's an example of my Galactic Republic fleet, not quite up to snuff, just because I don't have the Marauder ready to go yet. My Bad Batch are not where they need to be. This is something in the mid game you'd be working on as you push your way into Lord Vader to get all these guys. My Hunter, as you can see here, 5 stars. So as you push your way forward to get this rounded out, you're rounding out your roster. You're finishing up your fleets. You're finishing your farms. You're going for more Galactic Legends. You've got Kylo, you got Sith Eternal, you got Jedi Master Kenobi. Let's go get Rey. Let's go get Lord Vader. Let's go do the Skywalker Triangle or the 5-way farming. Let's get Jabba and Jedi Master Luke and Leia Organa and Profundity on this roster. Let's really round out the roster and push our way into the late game. As we do so, let's start farming Datacrons here in the mid-game heavily. Let's get into the Datacrons. Let's make sure our mods are put together. Strong mods. Now, that's something you should start at the very beginning of the game. You're going to fall behind if you don't start farming mods, and I've got my mods playlist. We'll put it up there. Yeah, I did it again. So you've got to do all these things. In the mid-game, you're really rounding out your roster as you push it forward into the late game to make sure that you're ready to go forward into Kyber 2, 3, maybe Kyber 4 in the late game. Let's go look at that late game roster. Oh, wait, I don't even have to do a transition because it's right here. It's right here in front of you. My Nuge 2 Lightspeed lot roster is a late game roster. I've got 5 Galactic Legends. I'm at the same galactic power as my free-to-play roster. You can see that. I've got Jar Jar on this roster. I've got Darth Bane. As far as my ships, I've got Profundity and Executor on there. I do need to round out these. My fleets are not rounded out, not well rounded anyway. I'm starting to get my TIE Interceptor up and running. I do have my TIE Defender kind of getting ready to go there. So I'm getting this Chimera fleet in line. It's not quite ready, not quite perfect yet. My First Order fleet is up and running. My Galactic Republic fleet is not there yet, but it's in pretty good shape with all of these pieces. And I do need to get that Marauder. Yeah, so I got to work on that with the Bad Batch. That'll come at some point here in the next 9 to 12 months when I start working on Lord Vader. My Malevolence fleet this is a late game roster. I'm sitting here with a bunch of Datacrons I'm farming. My mods are in very good shape on this roster. Not amazing shape, but very good shape. I go back and I look at, where was I going to look at? I was looking at Fleet Arena, Grand Arena, I don't know, I was looking, oh, there I am. I'm in Kyber 3 in Grand Arena, fighting to get back in Kyber 2. These guys with the Padme crown are killing me. You see, I'm in 28 in Fleet Arena. This is on me. If I worked at Fleet Arena every single day, I'd be in the top 10 all the time, top 5. I gotta be honest, guys, making content, I just don't really find the time to climb in Fleet Arena most days. I end up just taking my lumps in there and I'll deal with it and I'll have to buy the crystals later. But this is what a late game roster looks like. Kyber 3. 5 Galactic Legends, good mods, good Datacrons, some recent teams, some of the bigger teams, Starkiller, Jar Jar Binks, who do we mention here? I mentioned Darth Bane. We've really got that. We got Captain Rex and our Phoenix. We got our CLS. We got our Wampa. We got this roster very filled out with lots of stuff. Many Lightspeed bundles farm. We are in the late game on this roster, pushing our way into the end game. Now, out of all the transitions in the game right now, if you're free to play, if you're pay to play, whatever, I feel like the most difficult transition from what I'm experiencing right now in the game is going from late game to end game. From going from late game to end game. It's not just about the farming, because the farming takes a long time, and whether you're farming Lightspeed bundles or not, it's going to take you some time. But getting up into that Kyber 2 to Kyber 1 range with your roster, let's go take a look at an end game roster right now. What you are looking at right now is my original roster from this game. It's been handed off to some folks that are managing it right now, different folks, so it's taking on different names from the people that have managed it. Really cool stuff. You can see number 1 in Squad Arena, not really important, but why not? Number 1 in Fleet Arena, of course, Kyber 2, try to push into Kyber 1. It's a difficult task, guys. If you're going to be an endgame roster, you're looking at Kyber 1 or Kyber 2, but you can even see endgame rosters down in Kyber 3, 4, 5, Erodium 1, 2. An endgame roster is going to have all your Galactic Legends. An endgame roster is going to have all of your capital ships. An endgame roster is going to have all of your other fleets completely put together. This is a roster that is making things happen, that is helping children worldwide with the composition of this roster. This roster is an end game roster if I've ever seen an end game roster. All of the Datacrons, the mods are tremendous. Kyber 2, like we said. And I want to point out, I've talked to many folks, Kyber 2 to Kyber 1, Kyber 2 to Kyber 1. It is a challenge. Going from Kyber 2 to Kyber 1 is legit. Anyone in Kyber 1 has earned that rating, either by all the research and hard work they've done, or just having a phenomenal roster. Kyber 1 is earned when you get there. You see Reva on the roster. When we go to the bottom of the roster, there's really not much that hasn't been farmed here. The Tusken team is not farmed. Working on Ahsoka, quite probably. Queen Amidala is getting up to, some of the more recent characters are not quite up to snuff. But looking down here, there's really not much go. Oh, there's the Poncho Bros being worked on. Really not much else than recent stuff is lacking on the roster. Luthen Real is at Gear 12 with the Zeta. That's all you're going to see on an endgame roster is recent stuff being worked on. Everything that is aged has been geared up, is relicked, is ready to go. And at the far end, the extreme of endgame rosters, everything will be Relic 8, Relic 9, Relic 7, 8, and 9. You won't see anything below that. This roster is not quite there yet, but this is still an endgame roster. If I'm running across this roster in Kyber 2, I'm taking a living beating. This is your endgame roster. There's really not a lot left to work on. There's tweaks at the edges. If you want to get Ahsoka day 1, you got some work to do there. So you're either working on getting stuff unlocked on day 1, or you're just kind of rounding out some farms, working on Queen Amidala, working on Luthen Rail, maybe getting your Imperial Super Commando Gar Saxon up for a nice little Mandalorian team. Perhaps you are, or something else I saw in here. I think it's it. Oh yeah, the Poncho Bros, getting them up for that assault battle. Maybe working on, since you don't have IG-12 ready, maybe you're working on Bo-Katan, Mandalore. So some more recent things being worked on, but this is an endgame roster if you've ever seen one. And that, my friends, is where your roster falls in the game. When we talk about labeling it, that's what we're talking about. I hate running up against endgame rosters in Kyber 3 and 4. You should be in Kyber 2. Get out of my way. You're a real problem for me, but that's just me whining about stuff. Hey, let me know what you think. Am I misunderstanding anything? Hope this helps you understand where your roster sits or what I'm talking about when I say mid-game, end-game, late game, early game, whatever. Let's understand where we are. We could put labels on things to make it more clear to us where we're sitting in the game, because that helps us develop our rosters further to understand what is in front of us and what the challenges are that are coming. I hope everybody has a great day. I am so happy that you chose to tune in today, and every day that you choose to tune in is a blessing for me and my family, and a blessing for, once again, all of the children worldwide. Have a good day. Always remember, Nooch too good. If you have watched any videos or farming guides, or really any kind of, if you've been watching videos or farming guides or streams, roster reviews, grand arenas, really anything we do on the channel, you'll hear me mention, if you're watching my videos or the videos of any content creator out there for Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, you're watching Grand Arena, roster reviews, daily videos, uploads, etc., etc. If you are consuming content for Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, you're watching your favorite content creator, thank you. Okay, it might be me. It probably should be me. Anyway, if you're watching someone and they're playing Grand Arena, they're doing roster reviews, they're just publishing daily videos, they're constantly talking about beginners, early gamers, mid gamers, late gamers, end gamers. But what do all these terms mean? Where does your roster fall in this description? And what are some of the things you might want to work on? Or if you are consuming content for Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes and you're watching myself or maybe another, God dang it. If you are consuming content on Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes from this channel or any number of other channels, you're watching Grand Arena, you're watching roster reviews, you are watching daily videos, then you are constantly hearing us refer to early game, mid game, beginner, late game, end game rosters. But where does your roster fall in this continuum? How would we describe your roster? What does it mean? And how does it impact your decisions and the things that you are working on in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes?